1. Hello everyone, sorry in advance for how long this might be. Anyways, I am a freshman in college. I've been having problems with my roommate, and I'm at my wit's end. I can't wait to move out of the dorm. We got in contact and messaged each other before we moved in. Everything seemed well, and we seemed to have good communication. She asked if she could move something in a day before her move-in date, and I said it was okay. Met her mom and mostly spoke to her. The girl seemed a bit standoffish and shy, and this is where I made the mistake of assuming that she was going to be like me. For context, I'm not a very sociable person and won't click with a person when first meeting them. I need to get to know them. The day of the move-in, I allowed her to move her stuff and everything seemed fine. The next day was the last day of move-in dates and her family was still there to help her set up stuff, which was fine by me. Then there was an event which didn't really give us much time to really get to know each other because we went our separate ways. Then later that night, which was a school night, I was sleeping and all of a sudden I hear like 5 girls in the room. Turns out she'd invited people in the room to look at her side of the room at night. She tried turning on the light, but it was flickering and the girls got scared, according to her. They all went outside the room and started acting all hysterical at the door. All this noise woke me up and made me mad since it was the first day of classes the next day and I had to wake up early. She apologized to me and I decided not to hold it against her. Roommate doesn't respect me. Apparently she's dumb enough to talk smack behind my back while I'm in the room. For context, we're both Hispanic and speak Spanish, but I am more on the lighter side, so I look white. Anyways, I noticed her talking to her mom, and she was talking about me. She called me Goresa, rude, and that I was starting to come around. Literally was just being nice to her that day at my own pace. Anyways, I didn't let it faze me because it was like the second day of her being there, and she was probably just assuming she didn't know me well. Well, the straw that broke the camel's back was when her friend came in and they started conversing in Spanish. I let the friend in the dorm room, then I hear her friend say in Spanish, and she's okay with this, and I hear the girls say, yeah, I think she knows who's in charge now. Now that moment made me confused at first because I wasn't sure who she was talking about. Then I remember she said something similar when she was speaking to her mom. I got furious but didn't confront her because I didn't want to accuse someone of something I didn't have evidence of. A few weeks go by and not much happens. Just more crap talking about me to her mom. I ignored it because I thought at the time it was the best course of action. And I started to become distant from her. I also know that not everyone is obliged to like me, so I tried not to let it faze me. Unfortunately, I got so paranoid from being around her that I started to be out of the dorm room for longer periods of time, and only coming back around 7 to shower and get settled for bed, since most days I have classes earlier. Weeks go by. I'm just civil to her, but more things about her start to annoy me. She's dirty, has piles of clothes on her bed, and again, this is her problem, not mine, and she's very inconsiderate when it comes to late hours. I get that she wants to have friends around, but most of the time they hang at night, and she comes at later hours and proceeds to talk to her mom on the phone at like 11 or 12 at night. It makes me angry because I'm trying to go to sleep, but at the same time, I know she has a right to speak with her mom. I've also been under the impression that she doesn't want me in the dorm and wants me out. A couple of nights ago, and just last night, I too heard her say to her mom in Spanish, I don't want her here. Like, I already know that. That's why I've been avoiding being near her. All of this culminated in yesterday, where she asked if we could talk. I asked her if it could wait since I was busy, but she wanted to meet then. I already had a feeling that she was going to ask me to move out, and I was right. When I got there, she asked if I wanted to switch with her friend because we weren't compatible. She said that I was on the more reserved and quiet side and that it wouldn't work out for her to be around someone like me. She says some nonsense about our schedules not aligning together, but she'd be coming later at night from a sorority rush and felt bad for disturbing me whenever she came late. Yeah, right, as if you wouldn't have phone calls at like 11 at night when I'm sleeping. She also said that her friend's been having the same problem with her roommate. Literally because the roommate is reserved as well. And offered to have me meet her friend's roommate. At this point I was done because who the hell is she to ask me to move out? Just so her friend could move in. She even had the audacity to say, I don't think I could live like this for a year. Anyways, I met the girl and she seems more chill and we have much more in common. So I made the switch with her friend. I know that this makes me seem like a doormat and the whole thing is manipulative, but honestly, I don't want to be around a person so disgusting and toxic. I've been wanting to switch dorms since the first week, and honestly, I'll take anything just to get away from such a toxic person. Literally, this whole situation has been terrible for my mental health, and I need to get out of there. I just posted this to rant about the situation, and roommate, Hellfreezer's note, if you haven't left already, then before you go, do make sure you take some time to do a very heartfelt and detailed goodbye to her, but do it in Spanish. 2. In my sophomore year of college, I had a roommate who I roomed with because I thought we were best friends. Everything was cool for the most part, but I guess things started to hit the fan after she had her boyfriend come from the Caribbean to stay in our dorm for a month and a half long. Rent-free. She would always say how depressed she was, missing him long distance. Blech. So I let her bring him for what I initially thought was 3 weeks. Though it wasn't until he arrived with his suitcase that she told me, "Actually, I think it's better he stays until his next tournament." He's a cyclist. So I was like, okay, because he would literally have been on the street if I said no. Later on, I would realize that was the first red flag. But honestly, our friendship was just messy, and I should have caught on earlier. She had a habit of making critical side-eye remarks about me disguised as sarcasm or humor to make me feel inferior or less secure. Just doing jabs about my major, me, intimate life, you name it, which other people noticed. This is the whole time we've been living together, and when I distanced myself, she asked why, and I told her. She tried to turn the tables on me and say I was being sensitive, for months, and should have had the decency to tell her I was distancing myself from her being rude. On top of that, she tried to justify her rudeness, with her having borderline personality disorder. She made this her personality. When we formally sat down in the room and I detailed why I decided after months of being friends that I didn't want to be friends anymore, she told me to be cordial since we're living together, and I'm like, yeah, I don't have an issue, just leave me be. But when our mutual friend comes over, she pretends I'm not there, talking about me indirectly like, you know, there's people who just can't take a joke, and keeps talking, blah blah. Does more jabs at her about me indirectly, then I got so annoyed because I'm right here. You know what you're doing, being passive-aggressive and think you're sick. I address the pettiness to her. She yells at me and starts calling me names. After this, we kept having back-and-forth arguments for days till I decided to move out back home with family, with 3 months left in the semester. No housing refund for those last few months. I thought it was over, but no. When I say I was literally nothing but a great friend to her, before we dormed together, she even told one of our mutual friends, "I don't know how they deal with me. I don't think any of my other friends could live with me." I got a message from a friend telling me there had been a presentation made about me, and I freaked out screaming, crying as I scrolled through the defamatory BS post to her more than 1,000 followers. Many went to our university, with many stories and pictures of me out of context, disclosing intimate details of my past partners. She labeled me by name, and the #1 terrorist at our dorm showed pictures of dishes I didn't clean, which I 9 times out of 10 was always on top of, ripped my name tag off the door to our dorm, threw my jacket on the other side of the room, even called my mom and told her I brought a guy over to our dorm to insinuate that I'm a hoe, always bringing guys over. After the sideshow, I was devastated, suicidal, embarrassed. I could not fathom. When I found out, my heart sank into my toes. I felt so much pain and sorrow every day for so long. Felt defeated. Felt like everyone on campus would look at me like I was crazy. Even though they didn't, because it's a big school, but still. Even to the point I thought my friends would believe her, but they can distinguish fact from lies. I did not deserve that. No one does. Hellfreezer's note, that's definitely cyberbullying, harassment. I don't know if I'd go as far as doxing. I'd need to see specifically what it was she said. But definitely report her to the authorities at your university. I'm not sure if you could take it as far as law enforcement, but if you can, do it. She needs a wake-up call, and she needs a legal slap in the face. Best of luck with it. 3. This is going to be super long, so bear with me. Someone I knew was renting out a 3-bedroom house. I, 38 and female, signed a lease and moved in with a roommate, 40-ish and female, back in January. Roommate didn't sign any lease or roommate agreement, lesson learned, but landlord was aware of her being there. I didn't know roommate very well, but from what I knew, she was an okay person. You don't really know someone until you live with them. She knew that I was Mormon, and I am not religious at all, bordering along atheist. In the first several months, we got along great. We both respected each other's beliefs. I did ask that she not leave any religious pamphlets or items in the common areas, which was the kitchen and dining room. The way the house is set up, it had an upstairs with 2 bedrooms and bathroom, which are hers. The stairs to the upstairs have their own entrance and a door that leads into my living room. Then my craft room that has my entrance to the outside. Then it leads into the dining room and kitchen. Attached to the kitchen is the door to my bedroom and my bathroom. Outside my bedroom window is the driveway. Everything was okay. There were a few issues. She came to me saying that she thought she shouldn't have to pay half the utilities since she didn't have very much plugged in. At first I agreed, but I thought about it and she uses the appliances and the washer and dryer. She leaves lights on all the times. I told her no, she needed to pay her half of the utilities. At first, she was paying her half, but she also went through my personal area unplugging everything, and it was during the winter. She would shut off the heat completely. I told her that this was hard on the system, so stop doing that. She finally informed me that she doesn't have heat upstairs. It's an old house, and I didn't even think about it, not reaching up there, until she said something. I've lived in apartments nearly my entire adult life, so it's been a long time since I've lived in an actual house. I immediately gave her my heater. The heat was gas-powered, so I agreed to pay 3/4 of the gas bill. That would be fair. I also kept the heat down to 62 degrees and piled up with blankets. Come summer, my landlord put in a heat pump that supplied air and heating upstairs. Roommate wasn't happy with the room they put it in, but I guess the way the power supplies were set up, they had to do it that way. She complained about it the entire time, but there was nothing I could do with it. Usually, downstairs. When I'm home, I'll set the air to 72 and then down to 70 when I go to bed. I don't have much heat tolerance since I've worked in hothouses as a caregiver. I've woken up several times during the middle of the night drenched in sweat and overheated. I usually sleep with only a sheet or a light blanket during the summer, so it's not like I'm sleeping with a heavy comforter. I go out to see that she has set the thermostat up to 75 while I was home and asleep. I had asked her several times not to do that. I cannot sleep with it that hot. I did say that it's fine if she turned it up while I'm at work and forget. She responded back saying that I cannot tell her what she can and can't do. So I had a locked cover installed over it. She flipped out, of course. My argument is that it's not her business what I have it set at. I pay for my half of the electric bill every month. I don't ever tell her what she can or cannot have or whatever in the upstairs. That's her personal space. Things became so much worse when I was in my room, on the phone talking to a friend. Roommate was sitting in the dining room and called to me saying she was going to be meeting with her elders. I said, okay, and explained to my friend that she's Mormon and is meeting with her elders. I really don't want to listen to it, so I can either close my door or make myself scarce. And my roommate went absolutely ballistic, screaming that I was discriminating against her and stormed out. Since then, she's been extremely hostile and toxic. Things have become extremely toxic. She's refusing to pay for her half of the electric bill and did not pay her half of the rent for July. I ended up paying it myself. She's repeatedly woken me up in the middle of the night with laughing, talking, or loud singing to loud music. I'm being woken up at 1 or 2 in the morning. What really took the cake was that when I worked a crazy 14-hour day, 12-hour shift at the hospital as a patient care tech, then immediately at my home care client for an additional 2 hours, I came home exhausted and stiff. I had to work another 12 at the hospital the next morning at 6:45 a.m. I was woken up at 1 in the morning to my roommate welding for work right outside my bedroom window in the driveway. It wasn't the noise. It was the bright flashing lights lighting up my room that woke me up and wouldn't allow me to get back to sleep. I was exhausted and extremely stiff. The last thing I wanted to do was get up and go out and yell at her to stop. I don't think I could have been more furious than I was in that moment. I texted her in screaming text and waited a half hour before I finally called the police to get her to stop. When they left, she came storming in screaming at me, calling me stupid and every other name. She wouldn't allow me to explain myself. She stormed back out and sat outside my bedroom window on the phone for the rest of the night, screaming about how stupid I was, and calling me every single thing but my name. I got no sleep after that and had to go to work in a 12-hour shift running on 3 hours of sleep. I was absolutely furious. The next day, when I had a day off, I wrote up a 30-day notice and taped it to her door. I was completely done with her bull. Now it's the 24th, and she's saying that she's not leaving. I already had a roommate lined up. I've tried going to the courthouse to get an eviction, but they won't do anything because it has to be the landowner. But she said she doesn't have grounds to evict, the rent is paid, and the house is being kept up. I was the one that paid the other half of the rent and have been keeping up with the house. I don't know what to do to get her to leave. She's been extremely nasty to me, and she hasn't paid her half of the utilities. I just want to move on from this. Update. So a lot has happened in the last few months, but just recently she went way too far. She went and got an order of protection against me, stating complete lies or completely omitting important facts. Because she was granted this, I was forced to leave my own house. She's not even on the lease, and I had to leave. I had to take my dog with me. This had placed a huge burden on me. A lot of my friends and family couldn't take me because of my dog. My dog wasn't up to date with his kennel cough vaccine, so I couldn't board him somewhere. And I sure as hell was not going to give my dog up. I couldn't have someone stop in and take care of him either. And besides, I don't trust her to not accidentally leave the door open and my dog run out. In the order of protection, she told straight-up lies. She said that I threatened her, which is a complete lie. She was referring to an argument we had on the stairs going down to the basement. I was telling her she cannot use my washer and dryer because she has not paid the utilities in several months. I was not going to pay for her to do laundry, which she has several baskets of clothes surrounding the washer and dryer. She tried saying that she would just hook up the extra washer and dryer that was previously down there. I said that I didn't know if those even worked, and she was missing the entire point. If she paid her half of the utilities, I would have no problems with her using it. But if she wants to use it, pay me. I went down there later and pulled her stuff out of my dryer, set it on top of the many baskets, and put my clothes in. I go upstairs, and a few minutes later I hear her go back downstairs and then leave. I went downstairs to find she had taken my clothes out and hers in. I took hers out and put mine back in, and finished my laundry for the night. She claims that I threatened her, saying that there would be consequences. I did no such thing. That is a blatant lie. She also claimed on the form that I had called the police on her for welding in the driveway, and recording myself throwing a fit about it. What she didn't say is that it was at 1 a.m, and right outside my bedroom window. I also texted her and waited a while before calling the police. I was throwing a fit because I was upset that I was woken up. I wasn't even yelling or screaming. I was talking in a normal, granted annoyed voice. I had worked a 14-hour day, my legs and feet were extremely stiff and sore. I was also having to work another 12-hour day early the next morning. Yes, I was upset, and yes, I was cursing in the video. I was woken up at 1 a.m. You would be upset too. She also claimed that she had her brother over for dinner, and didn't like that. I didn't care. I just got off working a 12-hour shift at the hospital. All I wanted to do was go to bed. My room was attached to the kitchen and dining room. I had to get by them, and because of the narrow space, I had to say, "Excuse me, I need to get by you," and try to squeeze past. I was in the kitchen. My roommate was somewhere, I'm not sure where, and her brother was sitting at the table. I noticed that the back door wasn't latched, so I closed it. I said to her brother, "Please make sure the door latches if you go through it. It may open, and my dog will run out." That's all I ever said to him, but she claims that I threatened him and that I told him to watch his back. I had done no such thing. That is a complete lie. Later that night, when they had gone upstairs, I had woken up to a weird smell that lasted a few minutes before it was gone. I believe this was illegal drugs, as it had a chemical smell to it. It definitely was not marijuana. The next day, I smelled the unmistakable smell of cigarello smoke. It is a strict rule that there is to be no smoking inside. She had agreed to this. I don't smoke at all. I had emailed her saying that I cannot tell you who you can and cannot have over, but I would hope that we could at least agree that there shouldn't be any illegal drugs on the property. We had also agreed to no smoking inside. I definitely smelled cigarette smoke. So please remind your guests there's no smoking in the house. In the OP, she made me seem like I drank heavily and destroyed the house. I don't drink very often at all, and if I do, it's enough to get a buzz going. I haven't been drunk in a long time. She may think this because I had a bottle of caramel vodka that I had in the fridge to mix with apple cider. Actually really good, tastes like a caramel apple. But I had a meal before I drank the mix, and it gave me a headache instead of a buzz, so I didn't drink a lot of it. I didn't even get a buzz from it. I never destroyed the house. This was another lie. She also claimed that I was pounding on the walls and doors and threatening her. What she didn't say was that I had taken my dog out for a walk and come home to find that she had locked me out. I was knocking on the door to be let back in. I finally went around the back door and went through that. I started cursing because she had taken my stuff out of my craft room and put it in the living room, leaving a blank space on the wall. She had no right to touch or move my things. When we moved into the house, I had claimed that extra room as my craft room. The entire upstairs is hers. The living room, craft room, and my bedroom was my personal space. And the kitchen and dining room were the communal areas. Yes, I was cursing and was mad, but I never threatened her as she said I did. She also claims that I stole her mail, which is another lie. She said that she had ordered her debit cards and it had been a while since she was supposed to receive them. I said I hadn't seen them, which was the truth. Later, when I went to let my dog out to potty for the night, I checked the mail and saw they were in the mailbox. I emailed her to let her know that they were there, only to be met with an accusation saying, "It's awfully convenient they just appeared." I'm just flabbergasted. She had asked about them, I saw them in the box and informed her, only to be accused of stealing them. She also accused me of sending back her packages. I did no such thing. More than likely the packages were addressed directly to her boss, instead of my roommate. And it was sent back by the postperson. I had nothing to do with it. She has also repeatedly brought up things that happened between me and my ex. I had repeatedly asked her not to do that. It's none of her business, but she continued. She also kept mentioning her minor child in the OP. That minor child is a 17-year-old, very nearly 18-year-old. She made it out to seem like we had a young kid living with us, and he doesn't. He visits on the occasional weekend. Because she lied in the order of protection, I was forced to leave my house, that she more than likely didn't tell them she's not even on the lease. I also cannot turn off the utilities. It's ordered in the OP. She probably didn't tell them that she hasn't paid that in several months. I didn't have anywhere to go, since I had my dog, so I had to go to a motel that allowed me to bring my dog. It was crappy, but it was a shelter over our heads. At least that's what I thought when I booked it. I only had enough money for one night, and I was going to get paid the next day, but as my dog and I got out the car, he was on his leash, and I was getting into my trunk to get my stuff out. A dog came running out of another room and attacked my dog. The owner came running out, grabbed the other dog, and we got them apart. Thankfully, my dog was okay, but it shook both of us up. When we got into the room, not 10 minutes later, the owner of the dog came knocking on my door asking if my dog was okay, and then proceeded to ask me for money, saying she could double it, and I could hold on to her ID. I told her no, I don't have any money at all, and had her leave. That night my dog was barking and growling at anything and anyone that walked by the door. He stood between me and the door, protecting me. The next morning I got paid, and got onto Airbnb and found one that would allow dogs. It took nearly my entire checkbook until the court date, but at least we're somewhere a lot safer and cleaner. It's basically a one-bedroom apartment to ourselves. My dog seems a lot calmer and isn't growling or barking like he was at the motel. A few days afterward, I realized I hadn't spoken to one of my friends in a while, and I tried messaging her, only to get a message back saying wrong number. I went to her apartment to find out that she passed away a few months ago. To say I was devastated is an understatement. Sure, just add to the pile, why not? The court date came, and I went into the courtroom, worried that she didn't get served and that I would have to wait till the month was up for the next court date. Thankfully, she showed up, and we were sent to another courtroom. But when we left the first courtroom, I see her go to a person that I realized was my ex-wife. I could write a whole other story about that toxic relationship and the hell I was put through. The long and the short of it is she is a high-functioning schizoaffective, which means she has schizophrenia and bipolar. For a long time she took medications and was fine. The trouble started when she either stopped taking them or they stopped working. Near the end of our relationship, she was staying up for days on end, and when she would finally crash, she would have such intense nightmares. She claimed to have a nightmare about being in a post-apocalyptic world and a part of a warrior band of some kind. After that, she started to wear lots of camo, was talking about missing her boys that she had, and speaking of things not of this world. She really believed that this nightmare was reality, that she was seeing herself in another world. She could not tell the difference between the fantasy world and our world. For 2 years we went through hell. She claimed to have such terrible headaches that it felt like an ice pick driving through her eye and skull. She claimed to go blind in one eye, and had to wear an eye patch. She also walked with a cane to keep her balance. On her worst days, I would have to help her to the bathroom. I literally took care of her. There were times that I held her as she screamed in pain, clutching her head, as I prayed to my goddess to take the pain away. Finally figured out it was gluten, and went gluten-free. All her symptoms went away, including the headaches and the blindness. We became very careful, and because of this, I had to miss out on holiday dinners with my family. My mom bent over backwards to make sure she cooked gluten-free when we came to visit, and occasionally my wife would get sick and was glutened if there was a cross-contamination. Just a few crumbs could send her into bed with piercing headaches. After I left, I sent a screenshot of her asking the local mutual aid group for gluten foods such as pastas and breads. Someone also sent me a screenshot of her TikTok that was taken of her cat standing in the pantry next to a bunch of gluten foods. So my guess is that she made the entire thing up for attention and sympathy, and I fell for it. I knew that my ex was claiming that I was abusive, and if she was to take the stand, then she would spew her delusions and dreams of what she thinks happened but didn't. She also didn't like that I would put boundaries down and try to enforce them. It's crazy how when you start doing that, suddenly you're the bad guy. When my roommate said that she had my ex as a witness, I tried to protest, saying that I haven't spoken to her in nearly a year. She has never been to the house and has nothing to do with this. But the judge said she wanted to hear what my ex had to say. I knew that I couldn't let her testify. I knew that it would just assassinate my character. So I said I had no problems not saying a word to my roommate. I'm currently searching for another place to live. Thankfully, my roommate agreed and the OP was dropped. I'm able to return to my house. I found out that she had thrown out my bottle of vodka, whatever, it gave me a headache anyway, and I had 2 cans of Smirnoff Ice that she had thrown away as well. She also threw away most of my food and stuffed the fridge and freezer so full of food that I could barely get the few things I had at the Airbnb in. Now, whenever she comes downstairs and I'm in the living room, she slams her door hard, like it's not necessary to be doing that. I'm very close to getting my own place, so hopefully very soon I'll be out of this situation. 4. Rant ahead, but I absolutely need to rant about my housemates that I very strongly dislike. I'm the type of person that could never hate anybody, but these housemates have been very inconsiderate, and I just cannot fathom how people can live such lifestyles without being called out for it. As of now, I have yet to be confrontational about all the problems I am facing with them, and I am still cleaning up after them despite having close to no appreciation for my efforts in maintaining the house. With that, let's begin the rant. 1. My housemates leave their used cutleries and kitchenware all over the house after they're done eating. I'm talking meals that have already been eaten and just left on the dining table, coffee table, and countertops. I'm not sure who they're expecting to clean up after them, but they can be left there for days before it actually gets placed in the sink. Mind you, it doesn't get washed until a week later. 2. My housemates will leave all the prep work involved in cooking meals in the kitchen. Chopping boards, pans, kitchen knives, you name it, once they're done using whatever it is they need to cook. They just leave everything where it is and don't bother placing them in the sink. You can imagine how unusable the kitchen is with all their stuff being placed all over the kitchen. I often have trouble finding space to cook for myself because everything is occupied. 3. They never wash their dishes until a couple of days later. I can never use the sink properly because it's always filled to the brim with their dishes. It annoys me because I have dietary restrictions, and I absolutely cannot have my kitchenware contaminated with pork and alcohol. so washing my dishes has been a challenge when their used kitchenware is placed in the sink. 4. They are extremely inconsiderate when it comes to placing their things in the fridge. They've taken up 75% of the fridge, which is understandable, but all their stuff is placed all over the place, and they occasionally move my stuff without permission to make space for theirs. Remember that I have dietary restrictions and can't have cross-contamination of pork with my meat. This was communicated many times to them. Yet they place their pork products next to my meat, and I'm left to feel bad about consuming my meat and worries that it may be contaminated with things I shouldn't be consuming. 5. They use my kitchenware to cook and never wash it. Granted, I gave them permission to use some of my kitchenware, so long as it does not contain alcohol and pork. However, after using my stuff, they simply never wash it, and I am left unable to use my stuff as a result. And some days I look forward to cooking a meal, only to find my kitchenware being left in the sink unwashed for days. 6. My housemates leave their stuff all over the house. The dining table, which I used very frequently to study and eat, has now been used up to hold all their trinkets. Mind you, I make sure to clear the dining table after I study or eat, to make sure that my housemates can use the dining table. But the favor has not been returned, and I occasionally have to use my room to eat because there's simply no space. 7. My housemates are extremely noisy and walk really loudly. Our house has extremely thin walls and the floorboards vibrate very easily. Despite this, they go around the house, talking really loudly, especially after 12 a.m., and walk around the house really loudly. As a light sleeper, I always wake up to them talking in the middle of the night and running around the house. Sometimes I can feel the vibration of my own floorboards from them running around. On one occasion, they came home at 4 a.m., probably drunk, and were speaking really loudly. I could hear the whole conversation they had. They were also running between rooms for some reason and slamming doors at that time, which woke me up from my sleep and startled me. 8. They invite unannounced guests to the house without asking for permission. I cannot tell you how many times I've walked around my house looking dreadful and finding a random stranger sitting in my living room. I think it's basic decency to inform your housemates of guests, especially given that I am the only girl in the house. Uninvited guests can impose safety concerns, especially for a girl, and the fact that they couldn't be bothered to inform me makes me angry quite a bit. 9. The trash never gets thrown out. If I never took out the trash, believe me, we'd have dozens of filled trash bags waiting to be thrown out, accumulating in our kitchen. I've been very tolerant and quiet about all these issues, and I think it's just unreasonable to have to put up with such childlike behavior. I have never met a group of people that just live like this. I still have a couple of months to live with them, but it's going to be such a miserable few months. Hellfreezer's note, at least it is only a few months. Unfortunately, you might just have to tough it out. The reason your roommates are acting like this, I suspect, is because they're used to mommy cleaning up after them, doing everything for them. They probably never even gave thought to the fact that when they were living at home, cutlery never sat where it was for too long, the kitchen was always cleaned, all that sort of thing. Trash just magically disappeared. It's kind of pathetic, given that these are adults we're talking about now, that they would not make the basic effort to keep things clean. I mean, I suffer from depression sometimes, and it can be difficult, but even then, the house is still generally livable. Maybe things will sit for a few days, but they do get done eventually. 5. I, female and 20, live with 3 other girls in a college house, and it is not going well. We all met freshman year of college and recently decided to move into a house together for this upcoming academic year. When we moved in, we all agreed on some ground rules that we felt would be easy to abide to. Keep the main living areas, such as living room and kitchen, picked up, be communicative on problems with our living situation, and don't start any unnecessary drama with housemates. Typical things that we thought were pretty standard rules. When we all got moved in and settled, we started to notice how one girl in particular, 19, would behave and treat us. She had a tendency before to be pretty snappy and short, but nothing that we had firsthand been experiencing with her ourselves. Now it seemed like she had a problem with someone in the house about something constantly. We brushed it off, feeling like it would pass. After all, we're just settling in living with each other. However, this never eased up. Soon this roommate was leaving dirty dishes and rotting food all over the house. The counters were always dirty, her trash piling high in any corner of the house, and a potent rotting smell that had started attracting a variety of ants and spiders. We decided to gently remind in the group chat, hey, whoever's dirty dishes are on the counter, can we please get them cleaned up for cooking space tonight? Thank you. They were never direct, but we always knew who they were. Soon enough, we were cleaning her mass number of dishes, throwing away her food, etc. She refused to help around the house. We finally decided to bring this up to her, that she needed to be doing her part. We agreed on it when we said we would all move in together. She needed to hold up her end of the agreement. She immediately got upset, claiming we were attacking her, and decided to address this in person. This wasn't the first time we have heard a statement like this. Whenever we came home from work, it was, my boss was attacking me, and our landlord was screaming at me today. We decided this was a pointless fight and that we were talking to a brick wall, so life carried on. We decided to start taking pictures of this mess in fear that our landlord would blame all this on us, and the other 3 of us would lose our deposit. The other 3 of us, excluding the 19-year-old, decided to take a step back and start to reevaluate when this attitude and behavior started up. I thought back to when I was having a hard time with a falling out with a situationship of mine. She would always say how she couldn't stand this man. She had never spoken to him, we were pretty private about it. My roommates knew of him and saw pictures of him, and that was it. And that he was ugly. I chalked this up to personal preference. A couple of months later, we were in my dorm room alone one night, and she bluntly out of nowhere said that she added him after we fell out. I was shell-shocked. This girl that always gave me grief about him added him after our falling out. I told her that she should leave for the night before I said or did something stupid. I was fuming at this fact. The only thing that eased my mind was when she tried snapping him. He removed her immediately. I brought this up to the other roommates, and they had similar situations with her. Men they would be talking to, she would suddenly add and be flirting with, and attempting to send nudes to. Yeah. We felt this was crossing multiple lines, not respecting us or who we were talking to. This is where the start of the disrespect would stem from. A month passes, and things don't get any better. The other 3 of us are starting to get heavily into our classes and working our part-time jobs. Some of us, 2 of these. It wasn't unusual for us to come home tired all the time and just want to go to bed for the night. That was something that could never happen. Every night she would bang kitchen cabinets, slam doors, or just storm the house all the time, from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. None of us were getting any sleep, 3 or 5 hours a night average. Our patients were all starting to run extremely thin. The phone calls weren't any better. She was always on the phone with her mom, and you can overhear every conversation. Negative about anything and everything, and multiple phone calls, bad-mouthing us as people, her roommates. We could always hear them. Soon these habits rolled into the day, and she's slamming cabinets, doors, huffing and making us feel bad about how her life has inconvenience because she has to redirect a call at work. We have multiple broken hinges on doors and cabinets we have had to have our landlord fix because of this. We bring this up to her finally. Same story, we're just attacking her. Finally, I boil over one weekend after nearly 2 months of multiple classes, working 2 part-time jobs and getting hardly any sleep at the end of the day. I snapped. I had gotten home from a long shift, 12 a.m., when I got a text from the 19-year-old that I can't park in my usual spot without having a flat tire in the morning from her making a mess in my parking spot. I told her no harm done as long as it got cleaned up the next day, when I would be working the equivalent of a 12-hour shift between both jobs that next morning. It was a long day of work where I had no downtime, to the point where I was changing my work uniform in my car in a parking lot so I could be on time for the next job I worked. I was purely living off of energy drinks to stay awake. I finally got home that night once again at 12 a.m. exhausted. Surprise, surprise, my parking spot still wasn't cleaned up. I shot a text along the lines of, "What the heck, didn't you say you were going to clean that up today?" The only reply was that she was busy sleeping all day. Whatever, I showered, went to bed, Everyone was out clubbing, so the house was quiet. 2 a.m. rolled around, and I was woken up with slamming and stumbling in the kitchen. I went to investigate, and I saw my one roommate helping a drunk guy drink water and try to sober up as he puked in the kitchen. What surprised me more, though, was the 19-year-old was sitting rubbing the puking stranger man's shin and comforting him. She has never in all the years we've known her helped us out, after having a bad night and puking, but we always had to help her. If I wasn't already upset at the fact that I was woken up at 2 a.m., this was definitely helping my sour mood. I sat quietly in the kitchen observing just to make sure this guy didn't need a hospital or something. The 19-year-old was talking, and I honestly was not paying attention. Soon I hear her go, "I feel like you're not thrilled with me." I answer honestly, "No, not effing really," in what I felt a dull, tired tone. She then went, "Well, you don't need to be yelling at me." I snapped. How many times have I heard this sentence when I'm trying to explain something about my comfortability to her? How many times does she not let us speak our real feelings because we're yelling or attacking her? So I finally decided to show her how I actually yell and can rip butt. A small background on me: my family has loud booming voices on one side when a member gets upset and starts to yell. I inherited this, and she was going to know it. I started yelling at her to know that she's a piece of crap roommate and a friend, and I was tired of accommodating and babying her when us other roommates get nothing in return from her. She turns her head away, annoying me further. I went on yelling in more depth about how and why I can't stand her anymore. At one point, my roommate says we can discuss it in the morning and she'll handle this guy as we go to bed. I'm leaving the kitchen and I hear her mumble something about me being a certain name under her breath. Want to actually say that to my face and act tough, or do you want us to go outside and I can kick your butt? Only a bit more colorfully. Once again, my other roommate said not worth it, and I needed to go to my room. She was right, and I did. As I was walking away, I heard the 19-year-old trying to talk to the other roommate and saying how she didn't deserve to be treated that way. When my other roommate piped up and spoke, "Just effing move out then." Honestly, loved hearing that. Felt like I wasn't alone, though I definitely overreacted. Hellfreezer's note: no you didn't. We talked this out later, apologizing for our actions, with her mostly making excuses on her habits of behavior, followed by empty promises to improve. It still hasn't, and I want nothing more than her just to get so angry she moves out. I think my other roommates think this as well, and they have all had similar situations with her. Am I in the wrong for my reaction and actions? If not, what is a better way to get our house civilized and functioning? Hellfreezer's note: you're definitely not wrong. The fact of the matter is, you dropped some truths on her, and that she was long needing to hear. She's clearly one of those people for whom any pushback is an attack. So used to getting her way. Not knowing what her family situation's like, I can't really blame the parents, but it does often stem from parents spoiling a child. So now that she's in the real world with people telling her no sometimes, it's an attack. Oh, you've got to do something for yourself. That's an attack. You don't need to be civilized to this trash bag anymore. Just be honest with your feelings. Don't go out of your way to be aggressive, but just be honest. If she's making noise, tell her to shut the hell up. She thinks it's an attack? Okay. She can think that. You might want to start documenting and recording conversations with her, though I would check the laws in your state just to cover your butt. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Bad Roommates episode 35. And thank you very much to everybody for allowing me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. There are links in the description for ways to support the channel, such as Patreon and so on, and we also have channel memberships enabled if that is more preferential to you. Okay, no other bits and bobs today, so let's move along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, if you have a sore throat, I mention this because I've been dealing with one for a week. It's a little better today, hence I can record, although I will be taking it easy, so don't worry on that account. What do you do when you want to soothe your sore throat? Do you have any special remedies? With me, my two things are essentially just lozenges, which I have none of, I'll need to go and buy some, and throat coat tea, which is something I really enjoy. Did I do this? I may have done this recently. I apologize if I did. But if I didn't, and right now, I wasn't in the mood for the throat coat tea, so I made some white hot chocolate and the warmth of the drink was enough to soothe things enough that I could get through the recording session. But I'm taking it easy today. I'm going to go do other things that don't involve me recording or yelling. But leave your answers in a comment below. I look forward to reading them. And before we go, let's have a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And this one comes from Revenge's Ice Cream, actually, because we're out of bad roommates for the moment. Revenge's Ice Cream 243, and was about cute little kitschy items that you think are fun but you'll never buy. And today's answer comes from XY Furus. The strands of colored hair on clips. I like the idea, but I wouldn't use them. Thank you very much for your answer. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.